really glad to have back the senator from the great state of Texas, Republican Ted Cruz. Ted, how are you?
Pags, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm living the dream, man. It's always good, always a great pleasure to have you on. I got to tell you, I didn't think the beard would last, Ted. I thought the beard would be gone after about 2 or 3 weeks, but Heidi must like it, because that's the only reason it's still on there, I'm guessing.
You know, I'm having fun with it. If nothing else, it drives lefties on Twitter out of their mind.
That's true.
And there's some inherent value in that in and of itself.
There truly is. Now, listen, Ted, you may or may not know this about me.
I do have to tell you, by the way, one exchange that you'll like.
Please.
So one person who is not a fan of the beard is Dianne Feinstein. so several months ago on the Senate floor, she came up to me when I was talking to Mitch McConnell, and Dianne turns to Mitch and goes, Mitch, when is Ted going to shave that hideous thing on his face? And I turned to her, Pags, and I said, Dianne, next thing you know, I'm getting Birkenstocks, growing a ponytail, and I'm coming after your base.
You'll be the chief liberal in the Senate. That would be awesome. I love it.
Look, you and I actually believe in liberty. That used to be what liberal meant until the Democrats abandoned it.
That's true. That's absolutely true. It's the junior senator of the great state of Texas, Ted Cruz. Ted, I don't ever watch Chuck Todd. I just think the guy's a waste of my time. I got to be honest with you. But I did watch the interview you did with him because, well, you guys said, hey, did you check this out? And I actually saw it this morning before I got the email from you. So I'm watching it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not the constitutional scholar here. You are. Did Chuck Todd really say this? I'm going to paraphrase it, but I think it's in context. Did he really say, but Senator, the impeachment clause, the article about impeachment, I guess bribery and extortion and high crimes and misdemeanors, was written before we had laws, so you can't say what it means. Did he really say that?
He really did, and look, I got to say that interview yesterday, it really was the embodiment of what we're seeing every day.
Yeah, true.
Which is the media are losing their minds. I mean, they're terrified. You're seeing Democrats and you're seeing the media terrified because this impeachment journey they started, it is not ending well. Their investigation in the House is collapsing. They've had all this testimony, and they've concluded that they don't have the evidence to demonstrate any violation of laws, any criminal offenses, so they're backing away from it. And so you're seeing each and every day the media, I mean, they're just panicking. I mean, it's like it's rats fleeing from a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And Chuck Todd, look, there was a time not too long ago where Chuck knew how to be a real journalist, and you could just see all-out panic on his behalf, must defend the Democratic talking points at all costs. And it, on one level, it's sad, but on another level, it really is illustrative of just where this whole show trial has gone.
Well, you actually chuckled a little bit when he said it, because you appeared to be as as disbelieving as I was watching him say it. So Chuck is alleging before the Constitution was written, the entire geography of this land we now know as the United States had no laws whatsoever. The Constitution was written, and we made up what the rules would be before we ever said what the laws were. And you made a face as if to say, oh, Chuck. You know, it's almost like you were saying, oh, Chuck, you poor thing. Come here. You know, you're almost like you needed a hug. I was like, Chuck, what's wrong with you? You can't really be saying this to Ted Cruz, of all people, who I think knows the Constitution pretty well. So when he says that, and I think your response was appropriate without really annihilating him. Later, as you continue, as part of this interview, the allegation is nobody but Russia was trying to screw with our election in 2016. And if you dare, as the chief executive, the president of the United States, ask Ukraine, our alleged ally, to investigate whether there was corruption in the 2016 election, you're somehow trying to help yourself for 2020. I still don't get the connection there. Wasn't the president simply saying, hey, would you look into what the heck happened in 2016? Ted, am I misreading that? He didn't say a word about my next election like Obama did when he was still in office. I mean, isn't that what he was doing?
You're exactly right, and the beauty of it is that he's released the transcript, so you can read what he said, and he doesn't say anything about the next election. But let's stop, because you said 2 points, both of which I think are really important.
Okay.
The first point was on the question of the constitutional standard of high crimes or misdemeanors, and it's worth stepping back 2-3 weeks ago. You remember 2-3 weeks ago where suddenly every Democrat in Washington began chirping in at the same time the word bribery.
Everybody was saying bribery and extortion, right?
And the reason is that the Democratic Campaign Committee did polling and focus group tests, and they found out that when people hear bribery, they say, oh, that's really bad, so they shifted all their talking points to bribery. They just had one problem.
Yeah.
There wasn't any bribery, and so they had the testimony that didn't back up their political talking point. And so this weekend something really remarkable happened, which is the House Democrats put out this 55-page report where they backed away from their whole bribery theory and they said, okay, no, we don't have to prove any crime at all. We don't have to prove bribery. We don't have to prove any crime. We don't have to prove even that any law was broken. We don't have to prove that it was a speeding ticket. Instead, we can impeach for anything we dislike, anything. It's just a political determination. So that's the Democrats' talking point. And so then Chuck Todd seizes upon it and says, well, gosh, the Constitution happened before, actually, what he said is before they had drafted laws. Actually, the they was the Constitutional Convention in 1787. They were not, in fact, the Congress that was constituted once we had the Constitution ratified. But high crimes or misdemeanors was a term of art. What the Constitution says is you can impeach for treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. And high crimes and misdemeanors are not just words they pulled out of the air and said, oh, these look nice.
Right.
They actually had a long tradition in English common law, and they're not perfectly, but they're largely coterminous with serious felonies.
Right.
And so Chuck's there, oh, no, it doesn't have to be a crime at all, is just, it is indicative. As I said on the show yesterday, anyone who plays poker, there's a concept of a tell,
I love this.
which is when someone has a really weak hand, and they have a tell, they illustrate it, they twist their ring. Well, in Chuck's case, he was screaming with his hair on fire. That was a tell, and it was the Democrats' tell that their case is falling apart because they don't have the evidence they wanted.
Well, not only that, Ted, there is nothing material. You had Matt Gaetz, who actually asked the four experts, and the three of them who were just making crap up, who wanted to impeach the president in 2017 January. But he asked them, does anybody sitting here in front of me right now, did they see, hear, or read anything material that would lead to a crime in this case? Not a one of them raised their hands, and three of them really want this guy impeached. So they have nothing, and they're going back to obstruction of justice and to abuse of power, which are harder to define, right?
They are, and they're doing it because what they want to do is impeach for political differences. They hate Donald Trump. Okay, we get it. Anyone who wasn't paying attention, it's obvious now. The House Democrats hate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That is why they're going to vote to impeach. But I'll tell you the second thing that really has become abundantly clear. The Democrats and the media are terrified of anyone pointing out the very real evidence of corruption that was there. Listen, it is inherently within the president's authority to investigate corruption. And when Chuck got really upset yesterday is when we talked about, number one, Hunter Biden, the son of the vice president.
You're not allowed to bring him up. You're not allowed to.
$83,000 a month. That's $1 million a year to serve on the board of the largest natural gas company in Ukraine. $1 million a year. You know how much you make for serving on the board of ExxonMobil?
No.
They pay their directors $110,000. So Hunter Biden got paid almost 10 times what a director for ExxonMobil got. Now, look, you and I are Texans.
Yeah.
We know people in the oil and gas business. I know people on the boards of natural gas companies. You know what they tend to be? Geophysicists, geologists. They tend to know something about natural gas.
Right.
That's not why Hunter Biden got that job. He got that job because his daddy was vice president. And Chuck Todd and the Democrats, they don't want anyone to focus on. And by the way, Joe Biden bragged about, on camera, you can watch the video, he bragged about how he threatened to withhold $1 billion in aid to Ukraine until they fired the prosecutor that was potentially investigating the company on which his son sat on the board. Now, you want to talk about significant prima facie evidence of corruption? That on its face is that. And Chuck Todd and the Democrats, they don't want to talk about that at all. Not only that, you know what they do? If you point it out, they scream, as Chuck Todd has done for 3 weeks in a row. Anyone pointing that out, they say, you're a Russian asset. I mean, it's become a Saturday Night Live sketch.
It has. It's become laughable. And it's actually funnier than Saturday Night Live has been lately. TedCruz.org. TedCruz.org. Go to his website right now. It's Senator Ted Cruz. I don't want to run out of time, but very quickly, Jerry Nadler's argument for impeachment is actually undone by Jerry Nadler 21 years ago. Nancy Pelosi's argument for impeachment, by the way, she's Catholic, can't say hate. That's undone by Nancy Pelosi, who said Republicans were filled with hatred 21 years ago. Do these people think we don't have these videos? Do they think that we don't know exactly what they said 21 years ago? Nadler lays out the case against one party taking up impeachment for political purposes and how it can never be done. It's a coup d'etat. It is undoing an election that the voters of the United States wanted. That was him in 1998. Ted, does he think we don't know he said that?
Look, he does, but you don't have to go back 21 years ago. You can go back just a few months ago. In March of this year, Nancy Pelosi said impeachment can't go forward unless it's bipartisan. It'll divide the country, and it won't work. It is not bipartisan. You know what is bipartisan? Opposition to impeachment.
Oh, there are going to be a lot of Democrats who have to vote against it. Yeah, they have to.
Yeah. This has become just a political circus, and it is what happened. Look, I think Pelosi, I think she understood this was a political mess for Democrats.
Yeah.
But her extreme left-wing base, they're so angry, they're so up in arms, they're marching in the streets practically with torches and pitchforks. And I think the Democrats finally said, give the mob what they want. We have to do impeachment. So it's not connected to the facts. It's not connected to the evidence. It is the Democrats have wanted to impeach Donald Trump since November of 2016 because they hate him and they're mad at the American people for electing him. But here's the good news. This will go nowhere in the Senate. The House will do their partisan vote. They've denied due process for months, but when it comes to the Senate, I'm convinced, we will do a much better job. We will respect fairness. We will respect due process. We'll allow both sides to present their case, to present the evidence. And then I think the odds are virtually 100% the Senate will reject this show trial for exactly what it is.
It's Senator Ted Cruz. Go to tedcruz.org right now. Senator, I've got about a minute and a half or so. I've got to know about this Nord Stream 2, and here's the reason why. I'd never heard of it before this weekend. From what I understand, it's a pipeline between what, Russia and Germany? And when we have the ability to stop it, how would we do that, and why haven't we done it?
So this is a big, big deal. Russia's in the process of building a natural gas pipeline from Russia to Germany, and it would put billions of dollars in Putin's pocket. I've introduced bipartisan legislation that has targeted sanctions that will stop the pipeline. And stopping the pipeline benefits Europe, it benefits America, it benefits jobs here in the United States of America, and it hurts Putin. That legislation has overwhelming bipartisan support, and I've got real hope and optimism that we may get this passed as soon as in the next week or two, which will stop the pipeline in its tracks, in which case it's a big, big blow against Russia, despite all the Democratic talking points, and a big victory for Europe and the American people.
And this is a big deal. I talked to former Energy Secretary Rick Perry about this. I saw the president talk about this when he had meetings with the EU. Why would anybody in the EU ever join forces with Russia when they can get it from us? And we're offering liquefied natural gas. We're offering, all the stuff they need, and we've been protecting them for 60, 70 years. Why are they going to the alleged bad guy in town?
Well, unfortunately, Angela Merkel, the head of Germany, made a really bad deal. And not only is it one of the things we've seen is that Putin is perfectly willing to use energy for economic blackmail. He's demonstrated that he's willing to cut off gas in the middle of the winter to try to extort people to do what he wants. And so it's not in Europe's interest to put Putin in charge of whether people freeze to death or not. Much better to be importing LNG from the United States, from friends and allies who are not going to use it to fuel a military expansion like Putin. Putin is a KGB thug.
Yeah.
And the Democrats have suddenly discovered they dislike Russia. But for 8 years, Barack Obama wasn't actually willing to do anything to stop Putin.
Right.
Whereas if you look at the policies we've done in the last 3 years, our policies have been much stronger. And if we get this done, stopping Nord Stream 2 is a big, big deal. It's my bill, and I'm hopeful we'll get it done.
I hope you do, Ted. It's Ted Cruz, tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. I appreciate you. Let's talk again very soon. If not before Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, God bless, and have a wonderful New Year. We'll have a crazy January, I feel sure.
It's going to be nuts. All right, Ted, we appreciate you. We're back after this, 888-941-PAGS, joepags.com. Coming right back. Stay here.